Hey guys, Max here. Have you considered renting out rooms for a little extra jingle in your pocket? Well, I've been 5 years in and everyone's paid on time thus far. I make about $11,000 per year. I'm going to go over 7 steps on how I do that and do it every single month. Here we go. All right, first off, you need to make sure the finances are right. So the first question is, are the finances right on your house? Well, I'm going to go over a little bit on how I figured out my finances are right. All right, so I add up all my expenses, mortgage, principal, interest, property taxes, and my total expenses for everything. I'm going to put mortgage/expenses. That is just under $1,000, but I put $1,000 because it's an easy number. All right, so then I add, obviously, how much the rent is, the monthly rent, and I charge it's $575 plus $695 plus $650, and that equals $1,925. So mortgage and expenses, all that put together, is about $1,000. Now I'm also including a little bit of maintenance that I'm going to make on the house at some point. So you always want to make sure that's added in because that would really, having those figures is really important. So we take $1,925 and we subtract the $1,000. That's $925 a month. Do that by 12, and that's about $11,000 per year. Okay, so that's good. So you always want to figure out your mortgage, expenses, all that junk. That should be an all-encompassing number. Then you take how much rent you're doing. It's really, it's not rocket science, but finding this kind of deal right now in 2021 is almost impossible, so it may not happen. Now, the good thing is I bought this house in 2015, so that's the reason why I have these numbers. You need to buy in a market that's not extremely overinflated. Now, that's only one side of the story, though. So if you have a really desirable house in a desirable area, even if you buy at a, if the market kind of goes like this and this, even if you buy right there, which is the top of the market, not a very good illustration there, you still can find you can still find this number, the monthly cash flow. That's the really, really important number. Even if you buy here at the top of the market, which a lot of people do, especially in 2021, we're at a very, very extremely high part of the market. Even if you buy at this point, you can still have the monthly cash flow, and that is where the money is. Cash flow. People say cash is king. Cash is king. I disagree. I say cash flow is king. The more cash flow you have, the more you can become the king and own everything. So make sure your expenses are right. Make sure the rent is good, and then you can make this profit every single month. And that is what I'm going for. All right, so that's number one. Make sure the finances are looking very, very, very strong. If you have weak finances, do not do this. Second is you need to find the right tenants. In my estimation, if they can answer these questions with affirmative, you're on the right path. First one is, do they have the first month's rent and deposit ready today? Too many people say, oh, I'm waiting on this check, on this payment at this date for the deposit. Can you let me in before the deposit? No, I never, ever let anybody in without the deposit. You need the deposit and the first rent today. That shows me they have a little bit of fiscal responsibility. If they don't have fiscal responsibility, they're definitely not the right person. Next question is, are they working or studying outside of the house? If they are, that's good. If they're not, I would reconsider, because people in the house 24/7 all the time, it sometimes can make for more issues than there should be. And then third, do they have a similar sleep schedule? If someone works graveyards, you work a normal shift, they're ready during the night, you're asleep during the night, or vice versa. Having a conflicting sleep schedule makes it very difficult for a roommate. And when your sleep schedule is messed up, life is a living hell. So make sure to avoid that one. If they answer no to any of these three, that's usually an indication that I probably should move on to the next person. All right, number 3 is be friendly, but not be friends. Now, I say that because a lot of times you give someone an inch and they take a mile because they're taking advantage of you. But you need to be assertive as well as compassionate and understanding. Sometimes things happen, and sometimes, life hits unfortunate events. Now, if you go and answer those 3 questions we just asked and they have affirmative answers to all those, you're probably not going to be dealing with someone who is like that. If someone has their finances correct, they're the person you want. You want to foster an environment where honesty is rewarded. If someone says, I'm behind on this and I'm waiting on this to happen, and they've developed some rapport that this is just a one-time thing, don't punish them for that. Don't punish them for honesty, because you will have people go behind your back and try to do I'm going to not tell anybody until the very last second, and that's not good for anybody. So talk to them. See what's going on in their life. You don't need to be best buddies, but at least having a good morning or, have a good night. You want to have an amicable relationship there. You don't want hostility. I've had both. Believe me, the friendly environment is a hell of a lot better than the hostile environment. It's much better for someone to come to you 2 weeks before the rent is due and say, hey, I'm having an issue. Then 3, 4, 5 days after the rent is due, you having to come to them. It's like the principal's office. You want to bring the issues to the principal, to the teacher, to the authority figure before they catch you. Because once they catch you, again, it's just not good for anybody. And my last point here is be friendly and assertive. It's very possible to do both. It's a pendulum. You don't want to go too friendly. You don't want to become too assertive, because then you're just a dickhead. Find the middle ground, and you will be able to be friendly, but not be friends with them. Just want to remind you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're considering taking on roommates, please check out the resources I have. Go to maxmymoney.org/rentyourroom. The link will be below. Go to that, and you will see this landing page. Type in your name, type in your email. You will get the sample lease agreement, the roommate questions, the roommate agreement, and the room ad. If you're in the very beginning of the process, you want these 17 questions that I ask everybody. They're very, 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 very important. The roommate agreement, the advertisement I put on Craigslist and Facebook to attract the right tenant. This is super detailed. You want to have something that's very detailed. You don't want someone who's half the person you want. You want to find a person that's 100% the person you want. Sample lease agreement, things I use and I've been using for years and years and years, and they've been very, very helpful. So maxmymoney.org/rentyourroom. Go to the landing page, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. Comment below. Are these resources worth it? What process are you in to the room renting? I've done it for 5 years. I've been blessed to have everybody pay, not always on time, but that's how life works. But be friendly, be assertive. What's the process you guys are in? Comment now. All right, so being friendly and being not friends is a difficult balance, but you have to figure it out. You will find it out throughout time, I promise you. Next would be price the rooms slightly above market value. So before you do any pricing, you need to figure out what fair pricing is. I would do Craigslist, Zillow. There are a bunch of advertisements for Zillow actually shows you the whole home rental, so divide it by how many rooms you have. Or you can actually go on Craigslist and see what rooms are going for in your area. That's a really good estimation on what your room would go for in the open market. So the reason I go about 10 to 15% above market value is because if you have a competitively priced room in even a semi-desirable area, truly just a semi-desirable area, your phone will start ringing off the hook because people don't read the advertisement and the price is right. And having a little higher price is your hedge to avoid all these phone calls from people who simply aren't the right person for your room. And the worst case is this. If nobody calls, which I've never had happen, if nobody calls, you just lower the price to what you think a market value is, and then your phone will begin ringing. And I have tested this on Craigslist. I put a room for $575, and then I put it for $650. The $650 garnered a lot less phone calls, fewer phone calls. However, it was the right kind of person. The room that was for less money, again, almost the exact same advertisement, almost the same pictures, just tweaked a little difference to do my testing here. The one with the lower priced received so many more phone calls and so many more not the right people, to say the least. The higher price usually works out. So my lesson here is it's better to have fewer phone calls and use your time more wisely on more qualified prospects than to have a ton of phone calls from people who simply have no business calling you. All right, number 5, verify the income. Trust and verify. You got to be able to see that they have the funds. If they don't have the funds and they're totally fudging the numbers, for lack of a better word, that's going to be a lose-lose situation. You may have to evict somebody. Again, you got to see proof of the income. Physical pay stubs are really important. You can actually see that they are working where they're working, and get a little more indication on what kind of person they are. And then, gosh, funny story. I had this one roommate one time. No joke. He looked like he didn't have two nickels to rub together. Had terrible clothing. Ate Captain Crunch for seemed like every single meal. Let's just say it was an interesting fellow. He actually had $100,000 in the bank. Yeah, you don't judge anybody based upon their appearance, because you can be very, very surprised in the world. So always verify income. If they have a bank account compared to people who don't have bank accounts, they're usually a little bit more fiscally responsible, but you want to verify income always. Number 6, have the fastest, most expensive internet speed. Almost everyone is streaming some type of video, whether it be Netflix, Hulu, YouTube. You want to be able to make sure that everyone has a flawless streaming experience. You want to make sure your internet speeds are like Marriott and not Motel 6. I've been at both. Let me tell you, there's a huge difference. I had 250 megabits per second download speed. I upgraded to 1 gigabit, which is fast enough for everyone to be streaming videos, to say the least. Pay the extra money. It's totally worth it. You know, when we were kids, we had the TV as the babysitter. This is kind of like the babysitter for adults. Fast internet. And then number 7, end the relationship always on positive terms. You always want to end things on positive terms, because you never know when you're going to see that person again. Never burn a bridge unless completely necessary. Be supportive of their decision moving on. If it's them moving on, they're upgrading their life. That should be what you want. No one wants to live in a room, renting a room for the whole entire life. That's life. If you do have to evict or ask someone to leave, always make sure it's not you, it's me situation. It's much better to put it back on yourself than to ever point the fingers. And now I'm not endorsing lying, not by any means. I'm just simply saying there's always a reason why it's me having the issue. I'm having the issue. I'm the one in charge, more or less, because I own the place. I'm the one having the issue. However, if all else fails, you can always say you are considering selling and doing some renovations and we need the room vacant. Again, though, it's way better to tell the truth as much as possible. Simply don't lie. I don't endorse lying whatsoever. Tell the truth. Tell it directly, truthfully, and I hope that you've built enough goodwill with this person that they would understand. I've concluded after about 5 years of doing this, if you set the expectation up front, if you make sure everyone's on the same page, have everyone sign agreements, ask the right questions, you're going to have fewer problems. If you don't do any of those things and you just have someone move in because they seem like the right person, you're destined for trouble. Make sure you do these things, because I promise you they will make your life a hell of a lot easier in the long run. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to go to maximymoney.org/rentyourroom to get the resources that we talked about, and I will catch you guys in the next one.